Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, June the 19th. It is time for episode 16 of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, and I couldn't be happier that you're here. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I think last time I left you, I was dashing out the door, hot-footing it to St. Andrews to get to the Wild Symphony with Dan Brown at the Kingsbury Amphitheatre, which was every bit as colossally impressive as I would have hoped, as I dreamed of. Thank you so much to Mrs. Lucinda Flamer for the invitation. It was just a magical thing walking into my favourite performing arts venue in the world. Glorious sunny day, the billowing hills behind, the gorgeous green grass, and then the sight of 1,500 elementary school children from across the province sitting there watching Sistema, these world-class child musicians, performing this incredible symphony on stage with one of the world's best-selling authors, Dan Brown, reading his book. I mean, just absolutely magical. As I think I shared last week was bar none the busiest week of my life. Squeezing in a trip to St. Andrews to see a show was not necessarily on the cards, but we couldn't not go and experience this thing, and I'm so glad that we did. We shot back. I went to the gym. I went to my son's soccer, and then Thursday, devastatingly, last week, it was my son River's school spring concert, which I always look forward to. I love children's school concerts. I love anything that my children are doing in school. I embrace all of it. It's why we moved here, to be around it. And alas, last week's gig schedule did not allow. I mean, often these concerts happen during the day, which I guess isn't ideal for all parents who work during the day. So normally that works great for me. This time they moved to the evening. I guess some more people could go. Fair play. Everyone deserves a chance to see these things. Unfortunately, I had to hot-foot it to Fredericton for a show for some absolutely wonderful, wonderful people at MAMIC, which is the Maritime Association of Mutual Insurance Companies. Greg, Melissa, Melanie, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. It's a huge week-long conference from people from all over the Maritimes, and I performed after dinner on the Thursday night at the beautiful Delta Hotel in Fredericton. And some of you may have seen my video post on TikTok and Instagram of the view from the Royal Suite. The Royal Suite that the Queen did actually stay in, by the way. The Queen's autograph is on the wall. I posted a video of the gorgeous view of the Delta, of the river outside, and of the pool and the lounges and the restaurant, and asked people to guess where it was. Obviously, all Maritimers knew exactly where it was, but people from outside were assuming it was some kind of luxury resort, which it is, but no one imagined that was in New Brunswick. The show went beautifully. I'll be honest, what I'm about to tell you about last week's shows, I have been recently suffering something of a crisis of confidence. It happens to all of us. I had a couple of bad gigs in a row that left me pathetically feeling sorry for myself, but crucially thinking I haven't got this in me. Either I've lost it, either I never had it, either I'm a fraud. All of these insecurities that go through my mind. Invariably, when this happens, there are extenuating circumstances. Like the shows in question were shows that I was kind of, bamboozled into doing, and they were kind of, not particularly well run shows where I'm, plonked on a bill and it's broad daylight and I'm not supposed to be there and I'm not being paid, all these things. But regardless, I set such ridiculously high standards for myself that when any gig doesn't go spectacularly well, even if there's only 4 people in the room, even if the mic doesn't work, even if I blame myself and think, oh, you haven't got it, you've lost it. So equally, that insecurity and anxiety does often help me in my mission to make every gig that really, really matters go extremely well. In the case of this, it's like, I met Greg Dunlap at York Care Foundation fundraiser in Fredericton last year. A lovely gentleman by the name of Gary Beattie had booked me for that. It was a big fundraiser for the York Care Centre, incredible care home in Fredericton, and I was sat at the same table as Greg, and we got chatting, and this is how these things happen. And he, I guess, liked what he saw, booked me for this conference. I felt huge pressure knowing it's people from all over coming here for this, and not wanting to go. I wanted to deliver above and beyond. And so, of course, I have hours of material to choose from, but I go over and over and over, and I watch old videos and listen to old audios and blah 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 blah. And try and construct what I believe for that audience will be the perfect set. And then I arrive early and I lurk around and I listen to people's conversations. And I know it sounds really freaky. And then and I watch the room and I read the room and I listen to what people are saying as they're lining up for bars. And then I go back up to the room and I rewrite the set and I rejig it and think, oh, they said this. And then I try and speak to people and get information just to make the show as special as possible. And it went well. And after the show, they very kindly come on stage to present me with a gift. And as Greg handed it to me, I open up the box, and inside is a genuine, authentic, original, unworn Zeller's staff uniform. That's right, a Zeller's staff uniform. Talk about dreams coming true. So I put on the Zeller's top and then got ready to hit the road about 10 p.m. for my gig the following morning in Halifax at 9 a.m. Now, I know I mentioned this before, that this incredible, not a clash, but it was slightly, I'm used to being busy. I'm used to packing all that in, but that was obviously a bit much. But thanks to my dear friend, Krista Han, who saved the day. I knew she was the oracle of Fredericton. And I said, look, do you know of a reliable, taxi service that can help me get from Fredericton to Halifax overnight, basically? And she recommended a company by the name of, I believe it's under new ownership or it's a new company, but it's called Checker Capital. If you're looking for taxi services in Fredericton, I highly recommend Checker Capital. Krista immediately said, I know someone, I've got a friend that's just started a new business. They will help. Charles Youssef is the gentleman's name who now owns it. And I actually Googled Charles Youssef and found a wonderful story actually on from a website, which you can look it up. It's New Canadian Media. And the headline is, from humble beginnings to business success, this New Brunswick immigrant family is living their Canadian dream. I know, it sounds like my dream article. George Youssef is originally from Lebanon, and his son Charles have become two of the most recognizable business faces in Fredericton. They have restaurants, and from humble beginnings, they've built this kind of incredible, life and business empire in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is, of course, how many of us immigrants find this wonderful place. We come here and you all get behind us. And similarly, Krista, helped me out by recommending them. And sure enough, their wonderful driver, John, picked me up bang on time on Thursday night, drove safely but quickly through the night, got me to the West Inn Hotel. I guess I got in about 2:30 a.m., came in, pressed my shirt ready for the morning, went over my notes one more time because I was delivering a keynote the following morning. And again, a very, very big national conference happening at the West Inn Hotel. It was the CIC, it was the Credit Institute of Canada. It was their annual AGM, a gig actually that was booked for a year ago, but through a very wonderful man, a local hero here. Stephen Adams is his name, but many of you will know him as DJ Steve. DJ Steve and I met pretty much my first couple of weeks living here. I remember doing a gig, I think it was an Irving event or a wedding, or possibly it was both. And I knew Steve was a kind of a well-respected professional in the city, but he also, like many of us here, you have to have two hustles. He's also like one of the best DJs in the region, and he was in charge of the tech. And anyway, so we've worked together dozens of times since. But Steve approached me over a year ago at the gym actually and said, look, we've got a big conference next year in Halifax, we'd love you to speak. He introduced me to his colleagues Roger and Norshad, wonderful, wonderful people who were such a joy to work with. Anyway, I was given the extreme honor of doing the closing keynote. So Friday morning, 9 a.m. Now, those things can be tricky. Any national conference where everyone's been in a place they've never been before. Most of the people there had never been to the Maritimes before, let alone Halifax. And they've been kind of there all week, conferences all day, speeches all day, dinners every night, excursions, vineyards, golf trips. And also, not that these things are one big party, but, potentially people can be hungover at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning. So the combination of 9 a.m. Friday morning, massive ballroom, 300 plus people that have been there a week. They're all also planning, they're keen to get home. They all need to get home that day. So I was thinking, not many people might show up. Then, of course, there's my crisis of confidence, thinking it's all going to go badly. Again, I worked tirelessly over the keynote. I have a keynote. I have not multiple keynote speeches that I do. Some are about kind of using humor in the workplace. Some are about using the tricks of stand-up to get you ahead in life and business and relationships, and the little tricks that a comedian uses on stage and how you can use them in real life. I have another keynote called Embrace Where You Live, and I have my original keynote, which is the one I did here, which is Anything is Possible, which I tweak every time depending on the business and the location. This one I went really to town. Again, a combination of the nerves and the crisis of confidence and the responsibility I felt to Steve and Roger and Norshad and wanting to do a good job, because it's the thing. This is why I get so anxious and upset when things don't go well. I realized that my biggest wish in life is I just really like doing a good job. And I get really, really upset when that doesn't happen. Even if it's not my fault, I always blame myself anyway. And sometimes it is my fault. And sometimes you just don't click. Sometimes you get up on stage and you're ready to go and you are fired up and you're prepared and you've got everything. And for whatever reason, the audience doesn't warm to you, or the audience is tired, or sometimes I'm not saying always, but sometimes the audience are dicks. Just sometimes. I've done conferences where people have been dicks, and or maybe they think I'm a dick. I don't know. But anyway, what was amazing about this was I walked on stage and Steve was on fire, like on stage. Like, I mean, they couldn't have a better person introducing you. And it was the room clearly loved him, as proven by the fact he got a full house standing ovation at the end of all this, as did I. But anyway, I'll get to that. But Steve did such a great job warming them up, preparing. And this is a prime example of, and this is the case with both these gigs, both the MAMIC gig and the Canadian Institute of Canada gig, is they followed the rider to a T. The tech people I had on both nights, I believe it was Michelle at Encore Global on the Thursday night in Fredericton, and it was Judy from Encore Global at the West Inn on Friday morning. The thing they both had in common was they were like, what do you need? And again, they're not big demands. I'm not asking for, peanuts with the M&Ms taken out and, massaged by a supermodel, or, I'm literally just asking for stage lights, microphones that work. And in the case of Friday morning, the absolute godsend, having the cheat screen, the screen in front of the stage that shows your PowerPoint in presenter view. Anyway, these are all boring little details. My point is this, that thanks to Michelle and Judy, the Encore Global tech people, and thanks to Roger and Norshad and Steve, and thanks to, Greg and everyone at MAMIC, by making sure the tech worked and not cutting corners and saying to the venue, you need to turn the lights off, you need to put the lights on the stage, by doing that, I was set up for success. And that's all I asked for, is set me up for success. Have someone like Steve introducing you. So when you walk on stage, there's warmth and love in the room. Don't have the person on stage reading your intro who just doesn't want to be there, or has never spoken a sentence before, or can't actually string a sentence together. Just all of these little details. Anyway, I went on stage. I was terrified. I thought I literally have it in my head. I'm going to blow it every time. I walk on stage and it is magical. They're laughing at the stand-uppy bits. There's tears on the sad bits. They're with me the whole way, despite being absolutely exhausted. And again, I mean, I humbly and will take some of the credit for that show going well, but really it went well because of the attention to detail, and because of Stephen, because of Judy, the tech lady, and because of all of these details. So anyway, I mean, as you can tell, here we are a few days later, the dopamine is still coursing through me. On the Friday after this show, so I finished the set, instant standing ovation, which again you don't expect, and it never happens, and it never happens at corporates. It happens at, I'm sometimes lucky enough to get them at theatre shows. It doesn't happen at corporates. It doesn't happen at keynotes. It doesn't happen at 9 a.m. Doesn't happen when everyone's tired. Doesn't happen when everyone hasn't even heard of you 5 minutes before the show began. And I couldn't have felt more elated or happy. Possibly even more so than like my biggest shows, like the Kiras and the Harbour Stations and the Imperials, because there's always one thing niggling at me after those shows. There's always something, whether it be, in the case of the first Harbour Station, fractured leg because I jumped off the stage to hand someone a bottle of homemade wine and was on crutches for weeks, or, petty grudges or mistakes I've made on stage, or mistakes that the techs at the venue have made. What was incredible after Friday and those two gigs was I wholly happy and a few short days before was genuinely thinking I needed to give up comedy. I mean, how ridiculous is this? I hate that I'm like this. I hate that I'm this fragile. But it's one of these, I can't stop panicking and having these ups and downs, because that's what makes me I can't say good, but it's what makes me able or okay at this job. So I still figured out, and so I left. Then I'd taken a taxi there. Then my friend Gary dropped me off a Cadillac that we are driving for 2 weeks while my dad is here. My dad is coming this Thursday. So I mean, I say it's Wednesday. I am recording this on Tuesday, June the 19th, because in about half an hour I am hot-footing it to Charlottetown. I have a show tonight for the Small Halls Festival. Love the Small Halls Festival, just the most amazing festival. I've done it a few times in the past. It's amazing. We're pouring in like a Lions Club in the middle of nowhere in like a place like Hunter River with a town's population of like 200 people. Tonight in Charlottetown actually is very much not a small hall. It's the Florence Simmons hall. It's 350 people. I'm on stage with Deborah Kibbett and Patrick Ledwell, two of my favourite people and favourite comedians in the world. Patrick is currently right now hot-footing it back from Newfoundland and Labrador, where he recorded Debaters last night. Interestingly, one of the only... I don't like turning things down. As you know, as shown by the madness of last week. The first chapter of my next book is actually called The Yes Man, and it's about my inability to say no. But when the offer for the Debaters came in at St. John's last night, I looked at the schedule and was like, I cannot, like, with everything else going on, after last week's madness, I cannot squeeze it. Anyway, kudos to Patrick. He's made it happen. But yeah, I couldn't I couldn't last week go from, week in Halifax, come back, and a few days later go to Fredericton, and then to Halifax, and then go to St. John's, then go to Charlottetown, and then tomorrow I'm going to Mill River Resort, and then my dad arrives, and then this weekend in Dorchester, next week in St. Andrews. I just couldn't do it. Anyway, I do have some other Debaters recordings coming up soon. So anyway, I'll talk about those later. Anyway, my point is this: Small Halls tonight, and tomorrow night. Tonight is fully sold out. Tomorrow night, I'm at the Small Halls Festival, also at the Mill River Resort in, I believe it's fair to say, Northern PEI. Beautiful resort. Went there once on a family winter trip. I'm going to be there with my son Hunter and Catherine Cairns, the amazing stand-up comedian who played my wife in the sitcom. She is also on. So please, there's still tickets available for Mill River Resort. So please tell your PEI friends if they missed out on tickets in Charlottetown tonight. Please do come and see us Wednesday night. Which is tonight, if you're listening to this Wednesday, which you on the day of release. Anyway, you get the gist. So, and then tomorrow, Thursday, my dad arrives. It's my dad's first time visiting New Brunswick in the 10 years that we have lived here. So I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. So I've gone off the point. What was I talking about? Bloody hell, I'm rambling. Well, name of the game, isn't it? Name of the game. I will get to your questions soon. Oh, my goodness, I'm banging on. My point is, yes, last week. Did anyone see I mentioned a few weeks ago, Tyler Warren Ellis and I were filming commercials for the dairy farmers of New Brunswick. Well, this is the week they're landing. Yesterday, which is Monday, I'm recording this on Tuesday. Doesn't matter. You don't care what bloody day it is, do you? Because you could be listening to this any day. The point is, this week, all 4 videos are landing. Monday this week, the first video landed. It's a contest video to win 4 tickets and a meal, courtesy of the Dairy Farmers of New Brunswick, to come and see me live, go for an amazing meal, amazing night out. There for my Capitol Theatre Moncton tour date, my Fredericton Playhouse tour date, or you can choose from any number of 4 Yip-cider shows in the Kingston Peninsula. Wednesday the 19th, which is today, the day that this podcast is landing, the second video comes out, and then the rest land this week. So anyway, go to my Instagram account and follow the Dairy Farmers of New Brunswick. Watch these videos. They are anarchic, very Monty Python-esque, absolute madness. They gave us total freedom. And if you've ever wanted to see a man shoveling a donair down his throat, washed down with chocolate milk, well, you're welcome. Oh, I hope you all had a wonderful Father's Day. That was, yes, that's where I was. I was driving back. So Friday, I'm driving back, just elated, like just high as a kite from happiness, from the buzz of the gig, from the proudness of doing a good job. Because I felt a bit like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction when he's done the heroin. He's driving, like super cool. And obviously, I've never done heroin, and hope I never do, unless I'm one day sick in hospital and dying. And that would be the time to do it, wouldn't it? When you get the death sentence, give it a go. Well, maybe not. Maybe I want to spend no, I think I'd like to spend my first few weeks, months on the planet, somewhat aware of what was going on. And let's face it, I mean, who needs literally like when if life can gift you whatever it is people look for in drugs and by that I guess I mean legal and illegal drugs, or meds or whatever. If life can give you that Friday was the closest. Driving home, I just was on an absolute buzz. Well, also after Gary got the car, my friend Nancy Regan had messaged me to say that she'd been asked to record. I think I'm allowed to talk about this. If I'm not, well, I don't know. There's a very special celebration happening, as there is every year, for Canada Day in Trafalgar Square in London, which is where the Canadian Embassy is, which is also known as Canada House. I've actually done a couple of shows there in 2019. Anyway, they're doing this big Canada Day celebration, and some of the most famous people in Canada are doing videoing messages to deliver to the Canadians and the Brits in Trafalgar Square, celebrating Canada Day as they, party and head, right nearby is the Maple Leaf pub, actually, that serves Moosehead on tap in Covent Garden, London. Anyway, some of the most famous people are doing this, I mean, you can get, it's Canadian royalties, the Bublés, the Morissettes, McLaughlins, the Regans. Anyway, Nancy very graciously asked me to be in her video. So we shot over to the Podstarter studio and filmed. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it anyway, but I can trust you guys. I mean, this is not like this is not Joe Rogan's podcast, is it? Right? There's a handful of friendly, kind Maritimers or displaced Maritimers who've moved away, or possibly a handful of Brits that remember me listening. There's just a few of you. This is a tiny little intimate club. I can tell you anything, and it doesn't really matter. I can tell you guys, yeah. So that's what I did. So anyway, I did that, and then I'm hot-footing it back because I've missed, my son's school closing ceremonies. I've missed the concert. I've missed everything. But I've got to get back for dinner at Shadow Lawn. Got back, had dinner with the kids. The kids all obviously, gobbled down their burgers, disappeared. Me and River went home and just watched some of Stranger Things season 4. Stranger Things is such a great show because I watched it by myself, loved it. Then I watched it with my eldest son, Hunter, probably 3 years ago, and we were obsessed with it. And then now I'm watching it with my youngest son, River, and I feel like it's one of those timeless shows that in years to come, they'll be watching it with their kids and then their grandkids, and it's just wonderful, the themes of friendship and obviously the nostalgia element for for me to be able to show them the gloriousness of what it was like to be in a mom and pop video store. Then Saturday, Sunday, it was like Father's Day, obviously, and so obviously the news has come that Conor McGregor will not be fighting next Saturday, 29th of June. I think obviously that lots of people kind of predicted it. Lots of people predicted that fight was not going to happen. I must admit I thought it was. I'm a Conor McGregor fan. Obviously the man has his faults. But it is sad that it's not happening. I think it will happen at some point. But anyway, so I spent Father's Day watching the Netflix documentary McGregor Forever, which I think I've possibly watched 3 or 4 times before. I really like it. I'm fascinated by him. And I think why I'm fascinated by boxers and UFC fighters so much is that I think in my brain there's a similarity between this, and for them it's a more extreme thing. Like all my happiness and all my obviously there's other things, but my main happiness in life is dictated by how the last gig went, and so I build up to it and I work for it and I prep for it and I'm training for it. Essentially, you're following the metaphor here, and I'm studying, and it never leaves my mind. Nothing else is on my mind than the fight, and so for I guess for a fighter, when they're building up to a fight, all they're thinking about is that thing. So for example, Michael Chandler, as you should follow him on Instagram, he's obviously the gentleman who Conor McGregor was due to be fighting. He is, he's incredible, obviously athlete, but you watch these guys and they build up to this one thing, and then all their happiness, whether you be, Michael Chandler or Conor McGregor or Mike Tyson or even Jake Paul now, Tyson Fury. Isn't this the weird thing? That Tyson Fury is quite old to be boxing, and yet he was named after Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson was already the champ when Tyson Fury was born, and his father named him Tyson after Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson is still fighting now. Isn't that weird? But yeah, it's that thing of like build. So in my mind, when I'm building up to a gig, it's like I imagine. There was a funny meme after Tyson Fury's loss to Usyk a few weeks ago, where it was a picture of Tyson's lovely wife, who I think was brilliant in that. If you haven't watched At Home with the Furies, the Netflix reality show with the Fury family, it's wonderful. But there's a picture of the wife, and it said something like, and she looked a bit, miserable, and it was like, the joke was, my God, she's in for a few months of hell because he's just lost. And hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully a man can have a bad gig or a bad fight or lose a fight and go home and still be a good dad and good husband. I've really gone off the point. This is turning into a real ramble. Anyway, I think that's why I like UFC and boxing, because I feel like I equate stand up to it and performance and building up to this big thing, and how all my happiness and my mind frame and attitude for the day, week, month is literally dictated by how the last gig went. So right now I am feeling good because it went well. But who knows how Charlottetown goes tonight? Who knows how Mill River Resort goes tonight? Obviously Saturday night, this Saturday night I'm performing at the Thirsty Whippet pub in Dorchester at Ladysmith Manor. And my father's going to be there to see it. My father hasn't seen me do stand-up in close to 20 years live. So, in theory, it should go well. I'm in a pub. There's nice people there. They're serving British food, British beer. But, again, I'm going to be worried, oh, my God, what if it goes badly? And my dad goes back to England going, holy sugar, James has not improved one iota. He's as terrible as he was when I first saw him 20 years ago. What else did I do on Father's Day? Someone sent me a DVD, a very kind PR in Toronto, knowing, obviously, of my love for physical media, sent me the Blu-ray of Madame Web, the Dakota Johnson film, famously, obviously, lambasted as the worst film of all time, blah, 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 blah. I'm only 3/4 of the way through it. Have to say, I don't think it is. I had the same opinion with Catwoman. When Catwoman with Halle Berry came out, went to the cinema to see it, thought it was quite good, and actually enjoyed it more than most superhero movies. And I have to say, I like some superhero movies, and I can see why they're good. And Iron Man, very good. Of the Avengers movies, obviously, I can see why people like them, etc. And again, don't dislike them myself. Have enjoyed watching them, but I don't. Watching Madame Web, to me, it's not that much worse than the other hundreds of movies that get trotted out. Is it misogyny? I think it possibly is. It can't be a coincidence that Catwoman and Madame Web are both, dumped on the most. And look at the awful way that the female Ghostbusters were treated. Anyway, speaking of great females, not that we're gender specificing anything. At the WordSpring Book Festival the other week, after my morning presentation, keynote, seminar, workshop, a lovely lady by the name of Janet Coulter Sanford handed me her book, Memories on the Bounty, which is published by Nimbus. And it is the story of a gentleman by the name of Roy Boutillier, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, and how he and 24 fellow Nova Scotians set sail for Tahiti in 1960 aboard the replica sailing ship, the Bounty, to film the movie Mutiny on the Bounty in Tahiti from MGM Studios with Marlon Brando. And Janet basically has created this wonderful book, not only telling the story of the film and the story of Roy and the other Nova Scotians who traveled and spent a year in Tahiti and the experiences they had and these bonds, enduring bonds of friendship and the pain of saying goodbye. But tragically, Roy, while she's interviewing him, is also suffering with, forgive me if I get this wrong, but I believe Alzheimer's or dementia, one of the two, Alzheimer's, I believe. And she has brilliantly written this narrative, this journey, this memoir, and it's also functions as a memoir of herself, where her journey of talking to Roy and meeting with him and the things that she's doing in between. It's really quite magical. Anyway, I started reading it in Moxie's on my first meal out after a week filming the Trailer Park Boys sitcom open micers the other week. I sat and had my favorite Moxie's meal, which is cashew chicken, lettuce wraps, and the like a tuna sushi stack and a nice glass of Sauv Blanc. And I sat and started reading it. And I finished it on Sunday on Father's Day, sitting out in front of the house, watching the sunset, glass of vino, and the book ended and I was in floods of tears. Anyway, kudos, Janet. So check out Janet's book, Memories of the Bounty. So anyway, my book recommendation of the week is Memories on the Bounty by Janet Coulter-Sanford. Can't recommend it highly enough. Please send me your book recommendations. I mean, I'm off to St. Andrews next week with my dad and my uncle Louis. He's my godfather also. It's his very first visit to New Brunswick or Atlantic Canada ever. So my book recommendation is Memories of the Bounty. My weird recommendation of the week is Madame Web. There's a quote for the next poster. Not as bad as you've heard. Moving forward, thanks to everyone who bought tickets, by the way. I put out a shout out for people to buy. If you buy a ticket for Father's Day gift, any fathers that like big eyebrowed limeys, I would do a video for them to wish them happy Father's Day, and people snapped up tickets for all the upcoming tour dates in Moncton, Hampton, Fredericton, Kingston, Chester, Dorchester, PEI, British Columbia, and I did the thing. So I did send the videos. So that was very fun, and so thanks to everyone for supporting. But please keep supporting local comedy any way you can. A big shout out to No Jokes Barred, that at the weekend celebrated its 10th anniversary. Now, it is not easy to get a comedy club up and running, and an open mic night or any type of comedy club. For it to last 10 years is remarkable. So hats off to John Forward, a local St. John comedian, local legend, local hero, has done more for the open mic scene possibly than anyone. Has given more stage time to comedians. He is himself endlessly inventive. One of the things that always surprised and impressed me when I moved here and was doing open mics all the time and doing different shows with him all the time was how he always came with different material each week. Prolific writer, very, very, very wonderful wife as well, who was always there supporting. Not. That's not a dig if Pam's downstairs listening to this. Not saying but anyway. His wife's name, his wife's surname is wonderful, and it's true. She is. Anyway, my point is this: I did the very first No Jokes Barred 10 years ago, and John posted a question asking what are my memories of No Jokes Barred 10 years ago. And so last Saturday celebrated 10 years. But look up No Jokes Barred on. And it does what it says on the tin. No jokes are barred. John will not censor you. He will not tell you what you can and can't do. Not that many clubs do, to be fair, but it is nice to have that freewheeling environment whereby you can. It's the only way to test material. Not that we're all looking to be shocking, but you don't know how something lands until it literally lands. Either it lands with a thud or it lands with a laugh. I remember doing that show vividly for two reasons. One, I'd met John before, I believe, and we'd done shows at the Somerset before. And he was doing this show where it's like, we're not going to tell comedians what they can and can't do. And it was at the R Bar. It was just a lineup of all of the comics that we all know and love. And Matt Richardson actually messaged me, amazing comedian, messaged me saying he did Joe Jokes Barred on Saturday night. Said it was absolutely amazing. But that first one, I remember thinking, what impressed me was that John worked tirelessly to fill that room. Big lineup of comics, never said no to anyone, has consistently kept this going, right? And I remember I went to the 5th anniversary celebration. Also, not many people know this, and I've written about it for my next book, but I once ran a club in England called Upstairs at the Masons from about 2005 to about 2009, and it got shut down by the police after they received a complaint of offensive material. Yes, you heard that right. And then people talk about how now, like, everything's so weird, and it's really not. When you watch Jimmy Carr or Jim Jeffries or Dave Chappelle, it's like, it doesn't you can say what you like. But we had a comedian, Reginald D. Hunter. Someone deemed it offensive, went to the local police station, Savile Row. It's funny that Savile Row, we used to joke the Savile Row, because Savile Row is like the where all the tailors are. It's like the epicenter of London fashion. So why is there a police station there? What's that like? Someone going in and going, "I'd like to report a crime. I saw someone wearing white socks with a suit. Oh my gosh! I saw someone wearing chinos with a bow tie. Oh, it's a crime against fashion." So anyway, we always it was ridiculous that Savile Row had a police station, but I guess they really weren't that busy dealing with fashion crimes that day, because they turned up at the pub and essentially had the club shut down, which at the time seemed absurd and ridiculous. Now it seems, I mean, now you could kick up a stink about it and go social media mental on it. So anyway, I've written all about that. And our next show actually was supposed to have Stuart Lee, who at the time was raging against blasphemy charges for his show, Jerry Springer the Opera. Anyway, all of this is to say, no jokes barred. Happy 10th birthday. Kudos to him forward, and I hope you all had a wonderful time. And I wish I could have been there on Saturday night. Now, next question. Oh, what I think about Hunter Biden? Well, the Hunter Biden thing is fascinating because, of course, Trump's entire. I loved actually Dave Attell's joke on his last special. What was it called? What was Dave's special? Hot Cross Buns. And he comes out and he goes, "I'm a Biden guy." And he goes, Hunter Biden. Anyway, it's all about delivery. It doesn't sound funny. It is when he does it. Hunter, but yeah, Trump's entire and the Republicans' entire campaign is based on, the legal system is biased against Trump, and it's Biden's doing the dirty work and Biden's pulling the strings. And then for Hunter Biden to get prosecuted for something which actually... So you know what his crime is? Hunter Biden's crime is that when he went to get a gun, like legally, he ticked the box, "I am not a drug addict," when he was a drug addict. Like, given the Republicans' desire is for everyone to have a gun and for gun laws to be loosened, one of the things that I'm sure they would remove is that, like, they don't want restrictions put on that stop people with serious mental health issues having guns, because they want everyone to have guns. And I'm sure, given their way, Republicans would make it so that clause wasn't in there. That of course we want drug addicts to have guns. Everyone should have guns. So it's the weirdest kind of Black Mirror-esque scenario where Trump gets prosecuted and charged, and Republicans say, "Oh, it's the Biden campaign out to get him, and it's Biden pulling the strings." But then suddenly, when Hunter Biden's... Well, I guess now they're cooking up this idea that this is all a smokescreen to cover up something else. But also, it's quite weird, yes, that someone... And of course, when you're addicted to drugs, of course you lie, or of course you tick wrong boxes. Like, the crime is not, if by American standards, very bad. Anyway, we'll see what happens. That's what I think about that. What else has been going on? Oh, well, obviously on Sunday, on Father's Day, it was the first England game of the Euros. And I must admit, I don't miss home very often, but I really, really missed not being in a British pub, packed in there, just lager flying around. And obviously, England beat Serbia 1-0. England recently have tended to do okay in their first game, and then it trails off, always, doesn't it? But it does. It's interesting how the football really does bring Britain together. Britain, this incredibly divided nation, very divided, almost like America in many ways. Thanks to Brexit and the right and the left at loggerheads, and the old guard versus the... it's generally quite a divided country. But when the football is happening, the British unite in their love of drinking and violence. Which is generally what tends to happen. Sure enough, in Serbia, there was the usual headlines in British newspapers about English fans. I think even before the game, were causing a bit of a ruckus. It's funny, in England, wins, they start a riot to celebrate. If they lose, they start a riot because they're pissed off. Anyway, actually, I don't know if you saw that but due to the known disgraceful behaviour of British soccer fans or hooligans, or no, I guess people always say they're not real fans. Well, anyway, the German authorities actually halved the strength of alcohol at England's opening Euro 2024 game versus Serbia on Sunday. That's right. They basically took whatever the lager was they were serving, and it's normally 5-6%. They basically halved it so it was a low alcohol lager because that'll make everyone behave better, because obviously they're not going to then drink 40 pints rather than just 20. And really, I don't think it's the lager that's the problem. It's probably all the white powders and Mickeys of scotch in their pockets. But anyway, brilliant atmosphere. Obviously, watching it here in Canada. I was on the Kingston Peninsula with my beloved in-laws, and we watched the soccer game. And so I kind of I do miss not being around for all that. And interestingly, one of my closest friends and a former podcasting charm, we used to do a podcast together called Underground Nights, my friend Paul Field, he actually moved to Serbia a few years ago. And I'm not sure I can take credit for this entirely, but he definitely has said that, the way that we left England and moved to New Brunswick and kind of got this incredible new life here kind of inspired him to look for somewhere to move. And he left England and moved to Belgrade, Serbia, where essentially all his dreams have come true too, in that he has opened a record shop. He's a very much a local legend. I remember when Bryan Adams, I think, was in town, and Bryan Adams and his crew turned up and basically bought every record in the store. And if you want to actually see that, interestingly, a video has gone viral, featuring my friend Paul Field. It's on YouTube. It's called, the name of the video is Why He Left London for Belgrade, Serbia. Does sound very much like every Maritime Edit video ever. Why we left Toronto to move to St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Basically, that's the name of every, from Syria to Moncton. It's the name of every single one of our videos. And this one's gone way more viral tany any of ours have ever done in the space of just 5-6 days. Anyway, Paul Field, so tricky one for him. Supporting, is he supporting Serbia, supporting England? Anyway, the England, and of course this Thursday, tomorrow, my father arrives, and then my son Rivers at his friend Claire Fox is throwing a wonderful party, graduation party, and then when River gets home, we're going to be watching Messi play Canada. That's right, it's the battle of the champions. It's Alphonso Davies, Canada's own, playing. This is obviously part of Copa America, not the Euros, but yes, Argentina are playing Canada Thursday night. Lionel Messi versus Alphonso Davies. I cannot wait. You never bet against Messi, but equally you never bet against Canada if you're a Canadian. Okay, me and Hunter need to run to Charlottetown very shortly, so I'm going to race through all the questions this week. And if I don't get to yours, I promise you I will get to them next week. Lisa Prophet, beautiful, brilliant Lisa. What does your downtime look like? Do you give yourself downtime? Does it look more like just your bedtime than spa time? Excellent question, Lisa. My downtime is reading books, watching VHS videos, doing sticker books with my kids, sitting on the beach in front of our house. Still can't get over the fact that I literally have access to what is basically a private beach. Although, I will say this, my wife and I went down to the beach on Sunday, and someone, and it is someone, it wasn't an animal, had done a shit in our area. So and I know when you gotta go, you gotta go. The beach, we've been here 10 years. Occasionally we bump into our wonderful neighbours, Jane and Bentley, when they're either getting on or coming back from a boat trip. Never see anyone on the beach. Occasionally boats go by. We don't have a boat, so we just sit on the beach. But someone had done a shit, and I'm sure it was a human shit. Like big, and it was so hot it melted into kind of like a Mars, but like Mars bar melts on a sidewalk. That's gonna. I know Reese is gonna make that the title of this episode. Mars bar melts, but when it's all spread out, and you go, that is a human shite, and someone, I don't know if they were on their boat, but you have toilets on boats, don't you? I don't know. What scenario had someone found themselves on the beach? Maybe it's a statement. Maybe it's a critic. Maybe there's lots of people around here that, I know that don't like what I do. I don't know why they just don't listen to it or just turn it off. Because I'm quite careful to not do stuff that is out there for people that dislike me. I don't want to. But anyway, someone maybe went, this is James Manager's beach. Let's do a shit on it. I don't know. But anyway, a message received, loud and scented. So that kind of took the gloss off the Father's Day glass of Prosecco on the beach when you have to sit there and enjoy it next to a ginormous shit that you just picturing a human standing there squatting. Okay, let's move on. Keith Anderson has asked, what's your process for writing new jokes, and has the process changed over the years? I guess it's changed in the respect that what's fascinating is, of course, that when you're starting out, you are having to, everything's new. So you're testing new material, and you've got no stagecraft, and you're nervous, and you've got no performance. Now, I mean, my system now is going to venues like Long Bay Brewery and running a tape recorder and testing all the jokes, and I sometimes read them off a piece of paper, sometimes I perform them depending on what stage they're at. And if they get laughs, they stay, and if they don't, they don't. And sometimes I might think something's worth trying, and I keep trying and keep trying it. And after a few, a dozen goes, you go, that joke's got nothing. And other times you keep going, and one day, just you put the emphasis on a different word, or you use a different word, or you pause at a different point, and it somehow lands with the crowd, and boom, you've got it. And there's no greater feeling than that. And sometimes that happens, and then it never happens again. Sometimes jokes, when you're doing them for the first time, they work and they never work again. And I don't mean just topical stuff. I mean, there's something about the rawness and the freshness and the audience subconsciously knowing that this is an in-the-moment thing. So the process hasn't really changed for me in that I've always sat down and written, and then obviously on stage I improvise. I guess what's changed for me is that now I have the confidence to do a thing where I'll let the audience shout subjects. So actually, I will say in a couple of weeks, the 4th of July, Independence Day North, Canada Day week, I'm doing a show at Long Bay, 8 p.m. You pick the jokes. So you can either message me and say, write a routine on this. On the night, you can shout out a subject and I will improvise it on the spot. Or you can ask me to do a joke of mine that you've seen me do before that you like. Huge pick. So I wouldn't have had the confidence to do stuff like that before. So that's how I guess the process has changed. A lovely message here from my friend Teresa Carr. Good morning, James. Quick question about your arrival in Canada with your family in tow. Were both your children conceived in Canada? Tad personal. That's all right. You can ask me where my wife and I have sex any day of the week. It's absolutely fine. We are close. Where they were both conceived behind a bar in... No, I'm joking. They were both conceived in England, actually. They're both conceived at home in a bed, I believe. Both conceived at home in South London, 5 Langroyd Road, to be precise. Both born in England at St George's Hospital in Tooting. And when your question, Tad Personal, when you told us their names, I immediately went to a place in Prince Edward Island called Hunter River. There you go, PEI Tourism. That is, I'm doing the God's work there. I name my kids Hunter River so people visit Hunter River. And that reminds me, I do need to go to Sharktown any second now. And I will probably open with a joke about Hunter River, to be honest, since Hunter will be in the room. No, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know there was a place called Hunter River when I named them Hunter River. And 6 or 7 years ago, when I did the Small Halls Festival for the first time, lovely Debbie Atkinson, who works at Small Halls, kindly after the show drove me on a massive detour to Hunter River so that I could get my picture taken with the sign. And subsequently, I have also had my kids' pictures taken with the sign in Hunter River. And there's a beautiful performing arts venue there. It's a former church, now theatre, called Harmony House Theatre, where I did a show actually January 2020 before the world ended. And that was so much fun. Thank you for that question, Teresa. That was a very good one. I will point out that I know that well aware I am. If you're serious about doing a trip across the pond, that's my area of expertise. Okay, well, please, I am definitely interested in doing a group travel event where I take a group of people to England, so I'm up for that. Also, speaking of, the Mullinger's matchmaking service is going to come together. So, again, if you know any eligible bachelors or women or theys or anyone looking for decent, kind, washed people, let me know, and I'm going to start hooking people up. Sean Mooney, great question. What's your favourite moustache? It would have to be, I guess, the pencil moustache. Big fan of John Waters. Love the pencil moustache. The pencil moustache, or the moustache that my father had when he got married in the early 70s. Everyone had a moustache back then. Moustaches back then were like the hipster beard, weren't they? Everyone had a moustache. Now it's called the porn star moustache, which is kind of funny when you think that when everyone was at their hairiest downstairs, they also had more hair on their face. It's a funny thing. It's like, what was the thinking there in the 70s if you worked in porn? It's like, well, I'm going to have my face buried in very bushy areas anyway, so I may as well create a Velcro effect. Velcro. So don't work like that. Is anyone with a beard? I guess people with beards have gone down on bushy groinal area. This is a clean podcast, but does it have? There's a question. If you have a beard or a moustache, and you have treated someone, should we say, with a ginormously bushy 70s area, does it create a Velcro effect? Is it ticklish? Is it just lovely and cuddly, like cuddling a teddy bear? So is it like a Care Bear situation, or is it? I don't know. Okay, I don't know how I got there. Oh yes, what is my favorite moustache? Let me answer your question. Depends on moustache. John Waters, director of Pink Flamingos, massive fan. What authors have I met? Well, I've interviewed Irvin Welsh, which was a great thing. Thank you very much, Wendy, for this lovely question. I've met Irvin Welsh via phone. I interviewed him about his book Dead Men's Trousers, which is the sequel to Porno, which was the sequel to Trainspotting. And my favorite author that I've met and spent a lot of time with was Alan Hollinghurst. And I should point out, speaking of authors, that my former boss, my boss of 14 years and my mentor and friend and idol, essentially, Dylan Jones, the former editor of GQ, current editor of Evening Standard, founder and head of the British Fashion Council, and a million other things, author of the definitive David Bowie book. You might have read about him in the Mountain Minute magazine. You've also read about him in my book. He gave me my first job against all the odds. I was, he believed in me when no one would have, and also was very supportive of me as when I was a big time drunk and party animal. He was also very supportive when I took up comedy, and rather than let me leave GQ, made me comedy editor, and then basically just made all my dreams come true. And that, like, he's like, okay, well, rather than you leave to do stand up full time, stay here, do the job that you were doing, plus also go and spend time with Chris Rock and Tracy Morgan and Jerry Seinfeld and Jackie Mason. And it was the time of my life, and I'm inordinately grateful to the man. And he never stopped being supportive and nice, and he's just a very kind man. Anyway, his autobiography has just come out called These Foolish Things by Dylan Jones. I'm hoping I'm not in it. Because he always used to joke he knows where the bodies are buried. In my case, he literally does. So Dylan Jones, actually, Dad, I must get my dad to pick up a copy at Heathrow. Lisa Weir, Darlie Lisa, mother of my dear friend Kennedy Weir, a local hero and dear friend of mine. What is the one food or dish that you used to have all the time in England that you cannot get here and you miss? You can get most foods here. I mean, it's really personal stuff. It's my mum's cottage pie, my mum, Primula cheese. My mum would make Primula cheese sandwiches that are just to die for. Salad cream you can get here, Marmite you can get here, cream teas you can get here now. There's actually a cream tea company run by a British lady on the west side of St. John. If anyone's looking for a cream tea, message me for the details. I have it all. It's called Simply Scones if you look for them on Facebook. KP nuts is the answer, Lisa. The peanuts in Canada are not as good. I will never slag off Canadian anything, but I'll tell you right now, no peanut in dry roasted or salted is as good as KP nuts in the UK. Aaron Law, wonderful man, entrepreneur, local legend, hero. What is the maximum number of times you have seen one of our local river ferries return for another car? I'm sure this is one of the few places in the world this happens. I agree, Aaron. It is one of the only places in the world that happens. It's also one of the only places where it happens and we don't even think it's a big deal. I've probably seen it happen about 100 times. Oh, you mean in one go? I've seen it go back twice. I've been on it and it's gone back for someone, then it's gone back again. And the sign, if you're a true maritimer, is you're sat there going, yeah, this is the right thing to do. That could be me. The sign that it's some wanker from Ontario is when you see them kicking off and spitting blood. Oh my God. You've never seen more people freak out. When I was taking the Milledgeville ferry on Sunday, and you know how occasionally it goes to get to the Kennebecasis Island. So of course you drive up in the right time, but of course you can't see the ferry because it's coming from the Kennebecasis Island. It's not coming over from Milledgeville. So we're coming down to Somerville on the peninsula. Come down, no sign of the ferry. It's hilarious watching every car pull in, goes, where's the fucking ferry? Where's the fucking ferry? Oh, it's there. But then, of course, all the people from Kennebecasis Island have to get off and then get to the back of the line. I wonder if that's ever happened. If you have ever come from Kennebecasis Island, got off the ferry and then tried to get back on but not been able to, has that happened? Let me know. Lorne Richardson, dear Lorne, can't wait to see you at Yipside. Lorne Richardson, of course, famously from St. John, went to St. John High, now lives in Ottawa. He's going to be here in the summer. He's coming to see me at Yipside with Ethan Ash. Thank you. What was my favourite comedy telly show growing up? And a comedian or comic actor you idolised? The Young Ones, and obviously Monty Python, but The Young Ones, Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, Bottom, all of which, of course, starred the great Rik Mayall, who tragically passed. But Rik Mayall was everything to me. And I have to say, Rik Mayall made me want to want to become a comedian. And it was Frank Skinner that made me want to become. I'm actually listening to Dawn French's autobiography right now called The Twat Files, which is about just how we all in life make twats of ourselves occasionally. David Ford. If someone else is writing your bits you do on stage, are you still a stand-up comic or are you more of a performer? That is a great question. I think you are still a stand-up comic because there's a lot of, like, for example, there's a lot of criticism leveled at people like Bob Hope, who always used writers, but like he's still out there performing it. I believe I'm right in saying that. Well, for example, Nikki Glaser, who got an incredible response to the Tom Brady roast. Obviously, they all use writers. I mean, by that I mean they say to their friends, "Can you help me?" And I must admit, I have done so. I have sought the help of funny friends of mine like Catherine Cairns and Matt Richardson for help with debaters debates I've done when I'm looking to kind of pad it out and make it, or not pad it out, punch it up, make it better. I believe it. If you're a stand-up, you're a stand-up. I mean, if you're not writing any of it, that's different. But I mean, I think a lot of the comedians, especially in the UK, the Frankie Boyles and the Jimmy Carrs, that are doing so much work and they're so prolific and they're doing show different stuff all the time, that they hire writers. I think if you don't write any of your own stuff, then, maybe you're more of a performer. But if you're, stand up really, it's not easy. And if you're delivering it, it of course needs to be like, you can't, Seinfeld could write your material, but if you're not a good stand up, it's not going to come out well. So that would be my take on that. Someone said this to me the other day. It's when you think about technology now, try this, explain to your children that when we were kids, there used to be a phone number that you could call just to find out, wait for it, what time it was. Isn't that hilarious? Now, obviously, we just go, obviously you get your phone, you go in the Googles, what time is it in Manitoba right now? What time is it in China right now? What time is it in England right now? We used to phone a number to find out what time it was. Madness. I believe those are all the questions. I've got to run. I'm going to leave you with a couple of inspirational messages, which my friend Chris Hatt sent me. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the success. Absolutely true. Every single time you screw up, it is one step towards things being better and you being better. I think I talked about this before. One of my biggest failures in life, career, professionally was screwing up big time at a very important gig in England about 6 or 7 years ago. And due to the fact that I was under the influence of alcohol, and I have never, to this day since, ever taken a sip of alcohol on the day of a show since. And I believe I've improved immeasurably as a comedian. Crucially, I've not made other mistakes that I could have made. And that huge failure that it was gut-wrenchingly upsetting for me, and to this day I'm embarrassed about, led to the greatest thing that has ever happened to me in comedy. Quitting drinking before shows is the best thing I ever did in stand-up. And the other quote that I wanted to share with you all was, it won't happen overnight, but if you quit, it won't happen at all. And that's the crucial thing to remember. I mentioned that I'd been starting to think that I should give up stand-up a few weeks ago. That's how despondent I became with my failings. And you can't quit. You've got to keep going, especially because, 1 minute things don't go well, and then the next minute they do. And without those crushing downs, there isn't the highs. I mean, going back to make things go full circle, that huge high I had driving back from Halifax on Friday would not have been so satisfying and so wonderful and so beautiful. And again, it's very important that it must never seep into ego or arrogance or that feeling of being untouchable. It is simply, I worked hard, I did a good job, and I did well. Like, I'm allowed to feel good for 5 minutes. You know you're not the shit. You know you're not foolproof. You know that there's another mistake around the corner. But as someone that spends a lot of time dwelling on my own mistakes, when something nice happens, I allow myself to appreciate it. thank you all so much for listening. Please do keep sending me your questions. Again, you can message me on any of the social platforms, but the best way is email comedy@jamesmallinger.com. I'm at Mill River Resort tonight. Please tell your friends on PEI. I don't believe it's sold out. I'm at Ladysmith Manor this Saturday. That is sold out. I'm at the Charlotte County Business Summit next Thursday at the Algonquin. And then, of course, there's just shows all the way through July, August, September, Yipsider, Hampton, all the rest of it. My dad arrives tomorrow, Thursday. So if you see me walking around with a man with a beard who looks like 70s porn star, he doesn't look like a 70s porn star. And my dad has never done porn, just for the record, as far as I know. That would be not that I do go down the rabbit hole of watching such things, but God, imagine that you're watching. Okay, let's not. I think he listens to this podcast, so yeah. Sorry, Dad. Would not ever. Okay, I'm going to move on. So if you see me and my dad, come and say hi. We're going to be in St Andrews. We're going to be in Hampton. We're going to be uptown St John. We're going to be in St Martin's. We're going to be in Fredericton. He's going to get to see my son River play soccer for the first time. I can't wait. I'm so excited about that. Thanks for listening. And I think you know how much I appreciate you listening, but I really, really do. And if there's ever anything I can do for any of you, just message me. And go to my Instagram account right now and watch the latest Dairy Farmers of New Brunswick video. Thank you, Michelle at the Dairy Farmers of New Brunswick, for hiring Tyler and I to do this. Thank you, Tyler, for doing such a wonderful job. And I hope you enjoy the videos. If you do, please share them. And if you like this podcast, leave a review, because it does really help. Thanks. I've been James Mallinger. This has been Mallinger's Weekly Ramble. You guys are amazing. Thank you, and I love you. Goodbye. See you next week. Or see you in, Sobeys or St. Martin's or whatever it is. I'll see you soon. Love you. Bye.
Mallinger's Weekly Ramble.